Welcome, everyone. Good boy, Tucker. This is learning at its most fun.
All right, Takeover Tuesday. Welcome everybody to another Takeover Tuesday event. I love these days because we get an industry expert to just talk strategy. And today we have Zoe Meggert, CEO of Perfectly Planned Content and marketing consultant. Perfectly Planned Content has been established since 2016. So she's been doing this for a long time, working with RIAs and offices one-on-one to make sure that they are set up successfully for marketing. And I did previously mention that you might not be used to the services that she provides because hers is completely customized. Her goal is completely to educate and empower you as advisors to make a business that you love. So she's there to help you with the marketing, the consulting, making the blog post for you, covering the content with you. So I think today's session will be extra valuable. Definitely want to welcome Zoe. She has a great presentation, but definitely ask questions throughout as well. I'm going to hand it over to Zoe now. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone. I know we said earlier that, we know it's busy tax season, so appreciative that everyone was able to come out today and chat marketing. So if you don't know me, hi, my name is Zoe, and this is Content Marketing for Financial Planners. We're going to kind of cover the what content marketing is, why it's important, and how advisors can do it in a scalable way. Because I think the biggest issue advisors run into is just, how in the world do I scale this strategy? It's just me, or it's a team and we're all swamped. And so we're going to go into some strategies there too.
Yeah. That is true. I know there's probably someone on the team that loves marketing that you just don't know yet, but
there's always someone.
A big load.
No, 100%. So a little bit about me. I know, first of all, thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm so excited to be here. I founded Perfectly Planned Content in 2016. So it's crazy that this will be our, does that make it 6 years? Yeah, 6-year anniversary.
So yes, feels congrats.
Wild. Feels like, thanks. Yeah, it was just yesterday. It started as just me. I was a freelance writer and editor, went to college for creative writing, and it was always kind of my dream to be a freelancer. Quickly realized that the freelance life is lonely and I wanted a team. And now we are a team of 4 full-time employees and a team of contract writers as well. So that's just a little bit about us and our team and kind of what we're all about. We do focus on content marketing and marketing consulting for advisors. We always joke, we get the occasional referral client who is a non-advisor. So CBAs, people like that who advisors know and kind of introduce us to. But mostly we work with advisors. Usually it's everyone from a solo RIA to like a full-fledged, team of 20 who needs a marketing strategy to help their business grow and really help firm owners figure out what their path is to the business that they love and are really proud to work with. Through our consulting services, we really focus on education. We've really leaned into that more this year through presentations like this as well. So, we've got a range of free resources on our site. We do webinars like this. We host webinars too. So our goal is always just to provide as much education and empowerment as we can.
That is awesome. Yes, because things just change constantly too.
Mm-hmm.
So having that availability of your resources has got to be awesome.
Yeah, no, 100%. The marketing landscape is always shifting, and we'll even talk about that a little bit today, just what advisors can expect from Google or SEO moving forward kind of into the year. So first and foremost, I just kind of wanted to talk about what is content marketing. It was kind of a big buzzword a couple of years ago, so most advisors have at least heard of it, but it's worth kind of revisiting as well. So recently, well, really up until a year or two ago, if you said you were in marketing, you meant you were in advertising, right? So everyone was paying for really bulky paid ads. And I still think that there's a place for those, but I'm kind of excited because recently in all of the conferences we've been to, all of the continuing ed we've done is really showing it's sort of a return to marketing roots that's sort of trending right now with the Google algorithm and stuff, is true content marketing. So providing high quality, educational, impactful content for your audience that doesn't necessarily promote your brand directly, but in an indirect way so that you can build that foundation of trust with your clients and your prospective clients through high quality content. Google is giving more, credence to high quality content that's either longer or more viewed by your audience and all of that good stuff, which for a lot of small business owners who didn't have an advertising budget to begin with, this should come as huge and welcome news, like high quality educational content about topics because they already know backwards and forwards is currently on the up and what people are kind of working towards. So that's the high level definition of what content marketing is. There's obviously tons of different types of content out there. There's blog posts, podcasts, videos, ways to distribute that content. So social media, email marketing, newsletters, and we'll kind of cover all of that as well today. But just know, high level, it's just creating content about stuff that you know and that your audience wants to know more about. That's what content marketing really is foundationally.
Mm.
And then we kind of wanted to go through a couple examples from in the field, right? So we pulled a few different, just big business examples that weren't from financial advisors that we felt like were relevant. So this first one is the Money Talks web series that NerdWallet did recently. Why we liked it and why it works is it takes these complex financial topics and really makes them relatable and digestible. It's high value, it's comprehensive, and people don't feel talked down to, right? So consumers or investors are coming to these web talks because they want to understand more and how to improve their financial lives. And they're able to get quick answers. Even if they can't implement everything themselves, they can start moving forward on their financial journey. So that's kind of one sample of why it works. And the next is totally different field, but we still love it because I think that it represents sort of a different aspect of content marketing and just different ways to do it, right? So the Zillow Porchlight series. I'm kind of like a self-proclaimed Zillow stalker. I'm always on Zillow looking up new houses and like different markets that I'll never move to, but I'm fascinated by. So anyways, I think that this sort of Porchlight content strategy that they have is fantastic because essentially they're a search engine, right? Like that's all they've built. They're a search engine for houses or property. But they have this high quality content section that's user friendly, easy to browse, answers questions, and it incorporates different types of content. So it has different mediums like interviews, posts from guest contributors, there's some video, case studies, or stories. And that's really a good representation of all the different ways that your firm could create a scalable strategy that you're not in charge of creating all the content. Zillow's not writing all of the posts that go up. They're pulling in other authors and writers to do that to increase their frequency of posting, which in turn will help boost their SEO and drive more traffic to their site. So just a little, tidbit there. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. And what's great too is when you build that reputation, it's something that people will always allow in their inbox. Maybe somebody will get into a month where they're reading every single newsletter, and then the next month they're reading like one or two. But if your content is still having that reputation, they're never going to unsubscribe. Even if they get
100%.
slow one month clicking, they won't
Yep.
unsubscribe. I'll still get 10 Zillow emails, but I'll be like, well, they still need to come to my inbox, even if I don't open them.
Yeah, even if I'm not currently house hunting and I haven't been for years, like I just
Yeah,
want to know. I want to know what's going on. And I kind of talk about
exactly.
that here in like the intangible benefits of marketing, right? So you're creating this foundation of trust when you have high quality content. You're showcasing your expertise. You're showcasing that you're an authority in this space and can help people. And even with current clients, that relationship then gets stickier, right? Because you have another touch point that's hyper scalable. And then they're more likely to eventually refer you as an expert in the space to someone else. And to your point, if you're a prospect, even if you're not ready to buy, you're more likely to keep people in your inbox if it's high quality content.
Hmm. Yeah, that is hard too with advising because you do go by referrals a lot, is the
Mhm.
bulk of your business. And if I was going to be referring my advisor, of course, I love my advisor. My advisor is amazing, awesome, and great. But I can help that argument if you have content available to back up my argument. Because of course, I'm going to tell my neighbor, I'm going to tell my friend, my mom, my sister, everyone. But then I can send them a video that shows you talking points or you talking about market commentary and just flooring everyone and kind of solidifying, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
making that call tomorrow.
No, 100%. And that's what we always say too is how much harder is it for a client who loves you, right? Clients are your best marketing tool, right? To dig out a business card or to forward someone your recent blog post, like the blog post every day, right? Because it's so much faster. It's already in their inbox. They can send over a newsletter. They don't have to like go dig up your content or your contact information. It's just a much more natural way for them to sort of help you nurture your leads, which again takes some of the work off of your plate.
You're
So another
right.
reason we kind of like content marketing is this idea of like authentic connection, right? Which is to your point, so much easier to send a video where someone could see you talking than try to, build that connection unorganically or inorganically, like through paid advertising or something like that. It really lets you
Mhm.
showcase your firm's values, your personal values as a firm owner or as an advisor, and just broadcast that to the world. And then ideally attract the right types of clients too.
Yes. So how do you say, because I know a lot of people might be just thinking defaulting to like virality, like I'm going to make a
Mhm,
video that goes viral or
mhm.
content that goes viral. Is that what you're suggesting, or are you suggesting, keep it just consistent?
We're all about consistency. So I always tell advisors, people think that when you have a content marketing strategy, it's like an if you build it, they will come situation, right? They record one video one time and then they're like, sit back and wait for the clients to come in, right? Like, honestly,
Yeah,
it's not how it works as much as I wish it did. So
I
the truth
know.
is, with the Google algorithm, the way things work is the more consistent you are, the more Google views your site as high quality and educational. So you'll continue to build your rankings. If that content is keyword focused and SEO focused, it will continue to build on top of itself as well. And then it almost becomes a machine, right? So it's sort of just working in the background. The more consistent you are with your content, the more leads you see come in based on those keywords. We have content from 6 years ago that I look back on and I'm a little bit embarrassed about because it's like old and kind of, newbie ish. It still ranks and people still find us through those posts. So never give up and always stay consistent with your strategy. Even if you do try different things like here and there, just consistently producing and distributing is a big win. So, yeah, the one time viral video is sort of a silver bullet that doesn't exist.
Exactly. Great. Okay, I'm glad we kind of established that then.
100%, 100%. So we talked about a lot of this just now, and thank you. This is so much nicer than just like an awkward like talking head. I like talking to people during my presentation. Uh, so the other part of content marketing that makes it really valuable, so it does develop this network of prospects, kind of like we talked about with referring colleagues, family, friends by sending a video or a blog or forwarding on a newsletter, nurturing those prospects who are in your funnel but maybe aren't ready to buy. Like the Zillow example, you're never going to unsubscribe. It's high quality content, but when you're ready to buy, you know where to go to find your house. So that's just a good thing to keep in the back of your mind. A lot of people look at their email list or what have you and say, gosh, I'm just not converting these folks. But and we'll talk about a case study in a little bit during this presentation. But you just never know when people are going to finally reach out and how long they've been tracking what you're putting out there.
Yeah, I think that's what's hard too is everyone's so bombarded with everything
Mhm.
now. It's like what you guys are providing is so important that it's like you literally have to put these like Easter eggs out consistently to like, oh, I need to call my advisor, or oh, I need
Yep.
to
Hmm.
take care of this. Because they know
Yes.
they need to, but it just falls through the cracks.
100%, even for current clients, right? So, content, we always say internal marketing, like marketing to your current clients to make sure that they remember you're there, you're consistently providing value and reminding them of your expertise and value. That way, they don't get to their annual review meeting or whatever and say, what did my advisor do for me this year? Because they know they've seen the content you're providing, they see your expertise, and they trust you with their questions. And that's also big for just longevity of your practice.
Exactly.
No, 100%.
And have you seen offices get maybe less phone calls by providing more content? Because I know, you'll have some clients that just eat up a lot of your time because they call
Mhm.
so frequently, where
We
maybe
do.
if you are producing content, you're maybe, fielding calls to
Mhm.
getting that interaction less on the
No,
phone.
absolutely. And this is a fantastic point. So, part of a scalable marketing strategy is also helping your current client base scale, right? So, a lot of advisors say, like, they almost go against that and are like, no, gosh, like, why would I have, content instead of just meeting with them? But if you want to grow, you can't possibly meet with all of the families that you've got as frequently as you need to nurture those relationships. So we have a lot of clients come to us for things that aren't external marketing at all, but are an internal client newsletter that goes out once a month talking about what's going on in their firm or frequently asked questions. And we have some clients who send out an email communication around like specific times of year based on their service calendar. So it can be open enrollment season is coming up. Here's your checklist. Please don't forget these things. If you have questions, schedule a meeting. Just reminding people of the value they're providing and the questions that they're getting often and answering that in a one-to-many platform instead of, like you said, fielding 50 some phone calls about the same thing again and again.
I love that. Yes, because you know it's open enrollment season. You just address a whole bunch of
Mhm.
questions everyone might have at once.
Yep. Or even, I mean, we'll talk about the difference between evergreen and timely content here in a second as well. But what we have been doing for a lot of our clients is it's not a shock, right? During COVID, there was a lot of different bills passed and just timely stuff that needed to be addressed quickly. So, what we do is we've been writing sort of like standardized posts or email communications that our clients can personalize and then use and stay in front of those timely moments too. That way, it's not throwing a wrench in your content strategy if you had X, Y, and Z planned for this month, but the student loan extension just happened. Like, how do I get that communication out quickly? Just a one to many communication to your all client base can help you field a lot of that, like one off talking to people if you know that you're slammed.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, so I always say
Absolutely.
it kind of takes front end work, but that
Mhm.
front end work is going to help you in the moment later.
Mhm. No, absolutely. It has immediate impact and long term impact for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so because we're presenting to advisors today, I also wanted to pull some numbers and some stats on just why content marketing makes the most sense, at least in my opinion. There are many other forms of marketing and advertising that also work, but I obviously like this. That's what we built our business around. So content marketing costs approximately 62% less than traditional marketing methods, so like paid advertising, while also offering 3 times the number of leads that non content strategies could offer. 47% of internet users still read blog posts every day. I get this question a lot. People are like, are people really still reading blogs? The answer is yes, they absolutely are. And even if they're coming to your blog and skimming, Google reads and it doesn't watch or listen, right? So it's not watching or listening your videos or your podcast episodes. It's reading transcripts. It needs words in order to index your website. 9 times more leads were reported when long form content was leveraged for like the average, not just advisor firm, but businesses in general. A couple more stats on like distribution that I thought were interesting to bring up. So email marketing was the primary lead generation channel for 89% of marketers. So that could be lead gen funnels, right? So like free checklists or downloads or quizzes that you offer on your site. It could be your email newsletter, but that's where most people are coming in through. And we've seen this also be the case for our advisor base. Most clients who reach out to them have been on their email list for, it could be a week, it could be up to a year, but they've been nurtured in some capacity. So just,
Yeah,
yeah,
you'll
keeping it in your
kind of
back
find a
pocket.
lot of people have been stalking you, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's always kind of a surprise to be like, oh, like the advisor meets with a client. Clients said, yeah, my neighbor told me about you a year ago. I've gotten all your newsletters and I finally decided it was time. You just don't know where they're at in the buy cycle. So email marketing is critical as a way to distribute that content. 91% of consumers want to see authentic content from brands. So this kind of ties into being yourself and creating a strategy that really speaks to your expertise. And then as far as social media goes, I'm sure this number has gone up even since making the slide deck recently, but 42% of the population uses social media. So even if you're not on every channel, being on the channel that you know your audience is frequenting, for example, if you work with retirees, Facebook tends to be best. If you're working with professionals, sometimes LinkedIn is a better channel for you. Showing up where they are can really help you get sort of in their line of view much quicker.
And this might be to the previous slide, but Tony's
Mhm.
asking what other marketing efforts are the other 53% engaging? So it might have been the other one. It
Oh, I
looks like,
got you.
yes.
Okay, so like the internet users reading blogs. So
Mhm.
if people aren't reading blogs in general, I mean, we all know this, right? Everyone is consuming content on some level. But if people aren't a blog reader, I know plenty of people who aren't and don't, enjoy reading blogs ongoing. I do. They might be watching videos like on YouTube or Instagram has like, real stuff like that. Podcasts. I know I'm an avid podcast listener. Plenty of people subscribe to video channels as well to like get updated every time a new video goes live. Same with like a blog RSS reader. So that's sort of just a high level view of different types of content that are out there if people aren't blog readers.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you kind of what your thoughts are on the overlap of like public relations, because the whole field of public relations used to compete with marketing, and it used to be, public relations
Mhm,
was doing the blog posting and that, but it seems like for advisors,
mhm,
you don't have to do as much management of like your reputation for
mhm,
public relations. It's more just, making sure your voice is out there. So do you
mhm.
see how that's kind of transitioned, or do people know the value in it?
Yeah, no, and I would really say PR and marketing kind of work hand in hand for advisors, right? So if you have an authentic content marketing strategy, you're building a really solid PR foundation for yourself out of the gate. So people know your values, they know your niche, they understand the services you provide and the value you add. And so then when you look to do things like media requests or speaking engagements or what have you, people are already kind of familiar with you, or the people you're booking with are familiar with you as you continue to grow your reputation by borrowing someone else's audience, right? So again, whether that's you were mentioned in your local press, or maybe your local press, this happens to our clients all the time, pick up one of the blog posts from your website after you send it over and say,
Yeah.
awesome, like, we want to feature this as a financial, column or what have you. So that way, if you have this authentic foundation, just builds your PR strategy as you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that it really does help to know the strategy because,
Hmm.
like you said, if you're targeting a specific group, you want to go to where that group is hanging out because you're almost
Hmm.
at the mercy of each channel, right? Instagram has algorithms, Google has algorithms. Each one has their own algorithm. So, and each one's
Hmm.
different, it seems like. So, you
Absolutely.
want to dedicate your energy, it seems like, to where your audience is. Like, get serious
Hmm.
about that channel.
Yep, absolutely. And we always say too, when you create content, you own the content, right? If it lives on your site, you control that domain. You control how you get people's email addresses or what content goes out on your blog or your YouTube channel. You don't control if Facebook or Meta now changes their algorithm for ads. That's completely beyond what you can control as a business owner. And it really ruins a lot of people's strategies when they're relying on these other vehicles for creating lead gen, because that's the top of your funnel, which in some cases is the most critical, right? Like getting leads to your door so that you can convert them. And if you can't control where they're coming from or how they're finding you, like you might find yourself in hot water.
Yes. Yeah, it's just to compare it to everyone, the way the algorithms work, it's almost like the top of your business, they're all going to have a wealth transfer one day. Well, sometimes these companies decide overnight to change their algorithms, and it's almost like that wealth transfer had happened overnight. All those, like your AUM just changed overnight because that wealth transfer. So sometimes that could happen with algorithms where they do change and you have to adapt, or you have to like learn the new, do I make reels now, or do I make more traditional route marketing versus,
Hmm.
5,000 words.
Yep, exactly. So and that's something that we help our clients with too, is
Yes.
just business owners don't have enough time to research the Google algorithm change, right? But our team does. So we're here to help sort of guide and highlight what changes are happening, what we're doing to change it. We just changed the standard length of the blog posts we offer because they were just too short from the new algorithm change. So we're now offering longer blog content. So
Yes.
just
And that's
something to
why,
think about too.
yeah, I just have to emphasize, you and working with, so many competitors in the marketing space, what Zoe's doing is completely different. I just have to say that because she is working customized with you. I know a lot of offices are using marketing services, but we even discussed it previously. It's very cookie cut. All the other advisors are using the same exact thing. And I just want to make sure everyone understands Zoe's doing it completely different. She's completely working with you and creating that content with you.
Yeah, and we really believe in that. And we also aren't shaming by any stretch advisors who use sort of, I mean, there's a lot of different brands out there that do it. I think everyone has to start somewhere. I think there's a place for that content. But anytime you're ready to kind of go to the next level and start creating your own custom stuff, that's kind of where these concepts come in, right? Figuring out your brand, figuring out what topics you want to cover and what sort of content you want to create, whether it's blogs or podcasts or videos, and then figuring out a way to make that scalable for the long game. And
Hmm.
that's really these four ideas that we want to cover today. And we'll kind of dig into the how to do it, right? We want to give you the block and tackle strategies for getting it done. But thank you. I mean, that means a lot, obviously, coming from you guys. I know you work with a lot of competitors.
Yes, you're welcome.
So first and foremost, kind of getting to the how, right? Like, how do I do this? Where do I get started? We always recommend advisors start with a branding exercise. Most advisors have already done this, right? So most advisors have done this, unfortunately, usually it's a couple of years ago or 10 years ago when they did their website or initially started their business. We recommend that you do it yearly, just sort of a check in with yourself, a check in with your team, making sure you have a clear idea and understand your brand, your values, your niche, and just how can you position yourself with your audience. So this is kind of step one. Here's kind of what we say, if you're not even sure where to get started here, we have a resource for that. I'll show you where to find it. But these are sort of the four steps you can take to really dig into your brand. First and foremost, discover your ideal tone, right? This could just be, how do I sound when I talk to my clients, right? Am I really formal, or am I kind of I'm going to show up to a meeting in basketball shorts and a t-shirt? There's no wrong answer. I know for us personally, we are a very casual brand. We attract advisors who want that sort of camaraderie relationship. That's what we're all about. Like, I know when my clients' grandkids are going to have a play. It's just, we have that sort of back and forth with people, and every advisor firm is different, right? So we have some advisor firms who really feel more comfortable with that more formal. They've got a big team. They want their clients to feel like VIPs. It's high level. That's great too, but you need it to be consistent across all of your different marketing channels in order to build up some authenticity and trust. So that's sort of step one. Step two is make a plan for engagement. And we kind of talked about this, right? You can't control all the algorithms out there. So, how do you want to engage with your current clients and with your prospective clients? Where are they? So, like, that's a good first question to ask. Are they reading blogs? Are they listening to podcasts? Would they prefer to watch a video with subtitles on mute because they have toddlers and they just don't have time, right? I get that. I have twin 2-year olds. So that's, I'm in
Same,
that season of
always
life
on mute.
currently. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I know. I'm like, if you
So
don't have a drive-through, you don't exist to me right now.
100%. If I've got to get the kids out of the car, it's not happening. So yeah, make a plan for engagement. Figure out what sort of content you need to be creating in alignment with your ideal tone, right? Obviously, if you're hyper formal and don't like casual conversation, maybe a podcast isn't a fit. Maybe you do want to lean more toward a blog or a video that's been professionally edited or something like that. And then where do you show up to distribute that content is kind of part of this engagement plan. So do you work with retirees who hang out on Facebook to see pictures of their grandkids all the time? Are you working with physicians or other advisors or whatever who are showing up on LinkedIn to network and grow their career? Know where your clients are. And this can even be done in just a simple survey, right? Just asking your current clients, how do you use social media? Just to know where ideal clients exist, you can kind of build out a plan from there. Third, as part of your brand, is leaning into a niche. We get all the time people who say, well, I can serve everyone just as well. I can work with retirees and 20-year-olds and everyone in between. They're all going to get high quality service. I'm confident in that. And I think that's great. I think a lot of people get confused about what a niche is. And so they shy away from it, right? Because it's kind of scary feeling. So what we say is think of your niche in two different sections. There's demographic. This is what you hear about all the time, right? So in all of the webinars, all of the advisor podcasts, they're talking about you want to work with a 35-year-old physician male who wants to start his own practice. That is a demographic niche, right? So you have a very clear demographic defined there. I think that's fantastic. There's a lot of great content that can be created within niche demographics. But for the advisor who's like, I don't have that. Like, none of my clients fit that mold. They're all in different spaces. They all work for different companies. But I like working with all of them. Like, what is my niche? You probably have a psychographic niche. So, what I say is this is like people's attitudes, values, opinions. Usually, there's a common thread that binds, right? If you look at all of your client base, what is common amongst them? Sometimes we have advisors who say, look, they come from all walks of life, they're all different ages, but they're family oriented. Like they want to leave a legacy, like they're all about that. Or this is one of my favorite examples. We had a client recently tell us they won't sign a client if they can't pass the beer test. Like it doesn't matter
Hmm.
what employer they have or where they work or what they do, but if they can't sit down with a client and talk about their finances over a beer at a local pub and feel comfortable, it's a no. And I was like, that is the perfect example for a psychographic niche. You just need to understand who your clients are at their core. This can help you build out more complex case studies and really understand who your ideal client is so that when you're building out your brand, you can remember them and keep them in mind because ultimately they're the hero here. Advisors are just the guides getting them to where they want to be. So that's kind of our goal with this exercise. Finally, we've kind of talked about this already, but prioritize authenticity, right? So people connect to people, not businesses. You want to make sure whether you're a solo or whether you're a team of 20, people are recognizing that your brand is dimensional and it is human. And content can help you achieve this. Even if you're not, hawking individual advisors on your content channels, just making sure that people understand that there's a human, empathetic voice kind of behind the brand, so to speak. And this is something that, our business has faced too, going from solo freelancer to bigger team, figuring out how to maintain that personal connection in your marketing and build that authenticity is key. And identifying brand values as part of this exercise can help.
Yes, it kind of reminds me, or I really like the survey part and I like the beer part, but it kind of reminds me of if you did take it back to the physical brands where,
Hmm.
the department store, if you are a fashion brand, what department store do you want to be by? What other brands do you want your brand to be by? I
Hmm.
think that kind of thinking can help as well. What kind of email would you want
Hmm.
your email to be in the email inbox of?
Hmm.
If you open up an ideal inbox, what other maybe messages would be in that inbox? Would it be Apple? Would it be, what
Hmm.
is your audience? Are they tech people? Are they, humanitarians?
Absolutely.
Whatever it could
Hmm.
be.
Yep. And then from a messaging and a design perspective, you can even emulate brands that feel comfortable or safe for your target audience, right? So we talk to clients about this all the time. If they work with people in tech, right? They want their brand visually to be sleek and modern and feel familiar for people in tech who are around that sort of aesthetic all the time. It would be a no-brainer to work with them as opposed to maybe like a flowery, like more intensely designed site that wouldn't it would not make sense with what they see every day, right? So you want to feel comfortable and authentic to who you are kind of at the same time.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I know our CEO Brian, he loves Tesla and Apple. So if you haven't,
Hmm.
that's kind of, he likes the clean look like
Yeah,
that too.
absolutely. And this kind of is reflected here in this slide too. So when you are building out your brand and answering these questions, right? Your niche and your tone and what other sort of brands you want to emulate, all of that stuff. The basis is you're building consistency and you're building trust because in the world of marketing, consistency equals trust. If you're consistent with your not just, putting content out all the time, but with your messaging and your brand visuals, people then recognize you and trust that you're a brand that is consistent, which subconsciously makes them feel safe, right? Which is what you want as an advisor who deals with people's money. Trust is everything. And so building that foundation with a consistent brand voice is key.
That is true. It's almost like your letterhead. It's turning your
Hmm.
letterhead digital because before you would never dare send something not
Hmm.
on your letterhead.
Hmm. Hmm.
Same thing.
Exactly.
You're not going to want to send something online virtual unless it's consistent and branded a
Yeah.
little bit.
If people can recognize you or recognize that you're at least someone recognizable, right? Like you look like all the other brands they like.
Hmm.
If you have questions about branding, I wanted to throw this out there. We do have a branding questionnaire for free on our website and our resource library. So
Oh,
if you wanted to
nice.
get started on this exercise or feel like, hey, it's time to like refresh this, it's just an editable PDF sort of quiz type of thing. It can just help
Cool.
kind of get people's brains jogging towards figuring some of this stuff out. So the second idea that we're going to cover is considering the topics that you want to talk about or write about as part of your strategy. So building out this calendar can really help once you've established your ideal brand and what you want to say and do and act or what your values are, who you want to reach. You can then sort of start reverse engineering your content topics so that your creative well will never run dry. I often, when I talk to people, ask, what's the number one issue that you're running into with your content marketing? And the answer, like far and away, is consistency. I'm struggling staying consistent. I can't write this often, or I'm just not recording videos like I said I wanted to. And it's because advisors are so busy. So, like, it makes sense. And so, if you have this calendar, you'll at least always have topics and ideas available to pull from when you're ready. Or, like, your content team will always be able to say, this is what's coming, and it won't be a surprise, right? So, let's kind of dig into how to choose content topics. There's obviously like 1,000 topics under the sun, probably more than any individual advisor could write about. So we kind of try to section them into some different like or ideas, right? So you can have evergreen topics, topics that stand the test of time, are never going to expire. These could be things like retirement wellness check, like do you have a retirement lifestyle plan? Those concepts are always going to stay consistent and continue to generate SEO value for you long term. Or timely topics, as much as these may not have as much of like an SEO impact long term, they will short term. So they'll have that. And they also build trust because it shows that you're in the know, like you know what's going on, whether it's in the markets or the world or what have you, and can address your clients' concerns quickly. We also have this sort of idea of like niche focused or general. Obviously, based on our previous slides, we lean towards niche focused. But sometimes general questions do come up, like can I retire? That's a question every advisor has to answer for their clients, right? So having a blog post or a video that describes how do you know if you can achieve that milestone can be useful, even if it isn't geared towards your niche. Third is educational or inspirational. Usually in the advisor realm, people lean toward educational just because there's a lot of facts, there's a lot of misinformation about finances. Their job is to present themselves as an authority figure or an expert. So we lean toward educational content. However, I do think inspirational content can really be helpful, especially if you're kind of creating this story brand hero's journey that we sort of advocate at our firm. Um, just to let clients see themselves in a winning position, right? So if I'm a prospect, I want to know that I can do this. When I hit an advisor's site, I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I want to feel taken care of and like it's possible, right? So inspirational content could be client case studies that you can fictionalize to kind of stay compliant, just showing the end to end, right? Of the client started here, they were confused, they didn't know if they could retire, blah, blah, blah. They ended here, retiring and spending time with their grandkids and living their best life. Like that's content that someone would be inspired by and say, well, if this advisor got that client that, I want to reach out to because that's where I want to see myself in 5 or 10 years. Then kind of finally, we have this opinion-based or fact-based. Most of the time, again, advisor content leans fact-based just because it's more educational. But ultimately, clients are coming to you because they don't want to hear just the jargon or even just the numbers. They want to hear your take on it or like how would you approach this question. So I always say like have a couple of foundational answers to questions that you know you're going to get asked, whether it's my clients have stock options. Great. What do you recommend about stock options? Just have like a standard answer that even though it's going to differ between clients and stuff, you can still kind of offer up an opinion for at our firm, this is how we generally handle this. And you can kind of navigate it that way.
That is true. It kind of reminds me of a judge setting precedents. Like you're kind of establishing that
Hmm.
precedence from this point forward.
Hmm.
Have
Yep,
you ever seen
absolutely. And again,
offices like take those blog posts and like
mhm,
provide it in a waiting room when their clients arrive,
yeah,
like either on an iPad or a physical book?
absolutely. Yeah, well, and so we see too a lot of clients who, even if it's not blog posts, but well, a couple different things. Let me kind of back it up. So they can use those blogs as sort of the foundation for FAQs on their website. So like an FAQ section is a fantastic win for SEO and for people to find quick answers and more educational links to blog posts just to kind of amp that up. Um, they can also use it like if you have multiple blog posts about a topic, they can combine that into an ebook, or we've had some advisors combine it into like a book they are now selling like on Amazon, right? So different blog posts that they can string together about all things stock options or all things social security, whatever is relevant to your ideal audience. And then all of a sudden you have great blog content and like a high quality lead gen piece, right? So that's kind of an example that we'll talk about, like repurposing content in a second. But absolutely, having it in the waiting room makes sense. We recommend some advisors send links to their blogs. If you use a tool like Calendly to schedule, like in that welcome email before people meet with you, like that's a good idea too.
I love that.
Yeah, just
We have
might as well
someone
use it.
asking if you're going to make your copies of your slides available, and if you can share an example of a timely content you created to discuss a current event like the
Mhm.
Russia-Ukraine war.
Yep. We just wrote a piece about Russia and Ukraine for our clients. So
There we
yes,
go.
yeah, it's something that we literally just did for our clients um, last month, or whenever everything kind of happened. And what we did is we always take, and this is our personal opinion because it's our values, is that advisors should be educational but also a safe space for their clients. So instead of having like a hot take on it, it was more comforting, right? So it's like, this is what you need to know about how this is going to impact the markets, about stock that's exposed to Russia, how we manage our clients, portfolios and investment management, and letting people know, as always, they can come to the advisor with any questions. So that's sort of an example of a timely piece we did, but we've done other timely pieces too about student loan repayment getting extended, about the CARES Act being passed, tax rates changing, stuff like that. We try to do timely pieces about those items as well.
Exactly. I love it. It's short, sweet. It's not um,
Hmm.
controversial. It's just
Hmm.
letting everyone know, hey, here's more if you want to reach out to
Hmm.
us.
Yep, absolutely. We even did one on inflation just because it felt like the media was covering it a lot and clients were getting like their clients asking questions. So we did like a timely piece on inflation and how it impacts finances, how most financial planners plan for it anyways, and just some different things like defining what inflation is so that clients could kind of head off those questions from their consumers.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I did have a previous question I had missed. It's asking what is long form blog content? I don't know if you can
Okay, so this is
remember
a good
that.
question, and we get it a lot. So I would define, and it's kind of personal, I guess, but I would define long form blog content as anything over like 800 words, right? So a lot of people write blogs that are shorter, kind of quippier pieces. So like 3 to 500, they pack a punch, but like there's not a lot of meat there. I think those are good, and any type of content is better than no content, right? So first and foremost, if that's what you're doing, more power to you. Some people write really well in that word count range. That's fine. Google algorithms currently are preferring to see content that is, 800 words and up. And in most cases, even up to 2 to 3,000 words. So that's like the really long, like in the advisor space. If you think of like, what does a Kitces article look like? That is long form content, right? Like it's basically a novella on his website. And like he has such high quality content all the time. And you don't have to go that, bananas with content length, but that's sort of what long form would be.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a place for both, I think. A lot of our more timely pieces are that shorter because there's not like a ton to say other than, hey, this is happening. Here's what you need to know. But longer stuff could be, and this is a good kind of how to reverse engineer those long form topics. So we always say, like, if you want to take a general topic but feel like every advisor has written about retirement planning, like what in the world am I going to say? Make it specific for your audience. So kind of walk backward into how to create those content topics for your long form content. So start with retirement planning, that's like high level. How can you make it more specific for the people that you're working with, or what topic under that big umbrella could you use? So in this example, we use social security because it's a bigger part of retirement planning. And then how could you take that and even make it more specific for who you work with? This is a good example. We literally just did this for a client who primarily works with divorcees who are heading into retirement or who got divorced later in life. And so he had us write a post about top social security tips for divorcees.
Wow.
When to take your benefit, what can you do with your ex's benefit? What does that look like? And we really just kind of got into the nitty gritty of it. And that could easily max, a 1,000 to 2,000 or even 3,000 word post, depending on how in depth you wanted to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like you want to try both and with your data analysis, see what is being digested better. And it's almost like you
Hmm.
want to think about where you want them to read it too, because
Hmm.
you're sitting outside drinking a coffee. give me a long blog post, please.
Mhm,
Like I'm dying to consume thousands of words for
mhm,
some reason. But if it's like, oh, I just want, some quick content while I'm waiting for my name to be called at the doctor's, you can kind of
mhm.
have content to address both those needs. And I might click on your link and pull it up later, but it's still like on my tab to pull up.
Yep, and that goes back to too thinking about where your clients are in their life season and just what they're doing. And we have some clients who say, and you can look at the data on Google Analytics. We've got blog posts on how to assess your Google Analytics on our site too. But let's say we just had an advisor say, "Gosh, like there's a really big spike in our social media and like our blog visits at like 7 a.m. and at like 5 or 5:30 p.m." And what we kind of sussed out was it's when people were commuting. So like people were on a train. He lived in a city with a lot of public transport. His clients were largely professionals. They were reading his blogs or checking their email or on social media or whatever when they weren't at the office, but also weren't busy with family stuff. So like we started gearing stuff toward, okay, if you're on your commute, people are going to listen to a podcast. They might not watch a video because they're in a public space. They will read a blog post if they're just sitting on the train. So we were able to kind of build out a content strategy based on that information.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, and this was just kind of visual. I know some people are more visual learners than just like words on a slide. And I think you had asked too if slides would be available. I think you guys are recording this, but I'm happy to send the
Yes.
slide deck to you too.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. So this is sort of a visual of just what we created for like a content calendar. I find advisors, even if they're doing their own content and are just, kind of soloing that and don't have a firm writing that for them, just having this outlined like really helps them level up. So helps them stay consistent, even if they get off by a month, they kind of can see this is my due date for this. These are my notes. I have a lead magnet that's going out or that I want to promote, or I'm going to feature this email in my client newsletter, and that way you just can see the full holistic plan of how you're producing content and where it's going, like where you're going to distribute it in one space.
Yeah, and I think it's like I said earlier with the front end work, it seems crazy to do this in the front end, but you have to because you don't know
Hmm.
what will happen later where you're just like not even going to be able to think about producing content for the next week, maybe.
Hmm.
Because things
Gosh, well,
get
and
so
even
busy, so crazy. This will help
mhm.
you in
Yeah,
that
and tax
crazy week.
season is a great example. We have a lot of our clients who are producing their own content who say, "Gosh, like April happened. Like, what do I do now?" And they can always return to the calendar that we helped them create to kind of get back on track.
Hmm. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I've seen numbers of like, the numbers like six times. You want to be reaching out
Hmm.
six times algorithm wise or six
Hmm.
times attention span wise for people
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
even penetrate to their
Yep.
thoughts.
Hmm. As many touch points as you can, as long as they're geared towards your ideal audience and done in a scalable way. And we'll kind of get into reusing content too and how to pull that off.
Hmm.
So if in your brainstorming you feel stuck with topics, you've reverse engineered a few, but maybe you just feel like it's not enough, we kind of boiled down like three easy steps. So start with what you like, right? What do you enjoy writing about or talking about? Or if you're in a client meeting and we're going over stock options, I'm pumped. I love that. Like that's my jam. Great. Write those things down. Write down what you're passionate about in your own business. Next, think through what your audience wants to learn. Again, a client survey is such a win for this. Just ask your clients, what questions do you have about your finances? Or what questions did you have before we started working together? Kind of build out that list of things that were a pain point for them that you may not have even considered. And then step three is, Venn diagram it and see what syncs up, right? So where do those two things intersect? And you may find, there are some questions out there that it's very few people are like really into taxes, but some advisors are. And if that is you, maybe that's fantastic and that's something that intersects. But maybe you do need to cover like some more tax nitty gritty topics because advisors, or sorry, not advisors, clients have questions about them. If that's the case, great, you can add those to the calendar. But ultimately, you're more likely to stay focused and on track if you also like the content you're producing. So trying to find a balance can really help.
Hmm.
Again, if you need help or topics, we have a PDF that we developed that sort of categorizes different blog topics for advisors based on ideal audience or what sort of life cycle their clients are in, on our site for free. So if that's something that you want to get started blogging but don't know where to begin, like this can be a good place to start. We do recommend like trying to customize them for your audience a little bit. They're just kind of a little bit more generic because it's for everybody. But it's a good kind of place to start getting the juices flowing.
Nice. Yeah, that is a great resource.
Yeah. So next, and we kind of talked about this a little bit just in thinking through what type of content to create for your audience. And what we find is a lot of clients get burnt out creating one type of content, right? So don't be afraid. You can do anything from blogs to videos to podcasts to designing infographics for your website or your social media channels. There's a bunch of different ways that you can re-engage your target audience without, overburning yourself out. Um, this is sort of like the three things that we always tell clients in consulting meetings. So if you're trying to decide what type of content do I want to do? Do I want to do everything? Do I want to do one thing? Ask yourself these questions. So do find a medium you love. For example, I really love blogging and I really like webinars like this, right? What I
Yeah.
don't love as much is like recording videos just by myself because it's like kind of lonely. Like I feel like
Mm.
I'm a talking head on a screen. This is way more enjoyable for me. So those are the two types of content I lean into. Other members of our team really like creating videos or podcasts. They do those things. That's great. Do ask your others what they've tried. So in the advisor sphere, just here in this community for Redtail, if you're a member of XYPN or FPA or NAPFA, reach out to people in those networks and ask what they've tried. You might be surprised at just different ideas that are out there. It can kind of get your creative ideas flowing too. And then
Hmm.
don't create content that makes you uncomfortable. I'm all for pushing outside of your comfort zone to some extent. But ultimately, if you hate doing something, you're just not going to, and then your
Yeah.
strategy won't be consistent. So, a good example of this is I tried a podcast years ago. I hated it. Like, it just wasn't for
Oh,
me. I did not like recording. Scheduling interviews stressed me out. I felt awkward for some reason. I did like 4 episodes and stopped. Like, it just, because I just couldn't do it. And I'm like the consistent content person who talks about it all the time. So just shy away from it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. There's something else out there.
you're right. Yeah, shut it down completely. It's
Mm.
okay.
Yep. There's no shame. No shame in that game. Absolutely. I had people ask me about it. They were like, is the podcast going to keep going? And I was like, no, it was not for me. Like, I just didn't enjoy
Yeah.
it. Not that, I mean, my interviewees were fantastic. Like, I love talking to them, but
It just
just
didn't
the
feed your
process of,
soul, right?
yeah, like in the process of editing just felt like, ugh, and like some advisors like that. So you got to find what works for you.
Mm.
So
And I
this
kind
is the
of mentioned it earlier, but try to find your teammates might secretly like to do these things. Some people on your team might have
absolutely.
a secret passion for writing that you're like,
Hmm.
wow, I didn't even know that they love to write.
Yeah, or
Mm.
graphic creation. Like
Oh
we were
yeah.
talking to an advisor recently who, or and even on our own team, Lauren, my colleague on our team, loves like creating infographics in Canva. I would rather stick needles in my eyes. Like it's just not for me, but she loves it. And so she creates beautiful visual content and like PDF work and stuff like that for our team. And like she enjoys doing it. It's like something fun for her. So you never know
Mhm.
what you might find.
Yes. I do have another question coming in saying, do
Mhm,
you work with compliance at broker dealers? So they need to get their
mhm.
content approved. Are you going to be working with those compliance
We
departments?
do. Typically, what we do is we develop a system where if we are producing content, right? So if we're writing blog posts, if we're doing social media, we develop a system based on what that compliance department needs. We've worked with a lot of broker dealers, so we kind of know loosely what we're working with, depending on what broker clients are with. But usually it's we submit it ahead of time, and the name of the game in this is just being ahead of time and consistent. So when you submit it and then helping advisors remember to follow up because we're following up with them, we make corrections if compliance requires that. Because we've been working in the advisor space for so long, it's pretty rare. Like we write in a pretty compliant way. And we kind of train our consulting clients to do that too, so that they don't get flagged and have to like re-edit 1,000 pieces. But that is something that we do.
Hmm. Yes, so these are, all industry writing professionals that are getting that content to you that I
Hmm.
don't want to, throw out a number for your success rate, but it sounds like you guys don't get a lot of bounce back from compliance.
Not a ton, or if we do, it's usually like, you can't use promissory words, which is tricky in marketing because you want everything to sound shiny. And so like we might have to revise a couple words or make sure a statement doesn't sound too promissory. That's usually
Okay.
the biggest like kickback we get.
Got it. A great, great
Okay.
question.
So yeah, absolutely. And compliance departments can be kind of a bear. So even if you just have questions about how do I get stuff past compliance, we can help you with that too. So this is something that a lot of our clients are really jazzed about because ultimately they're too busy, they're short on time, they don't know like what they don't know as far as creating a scalable strategy. So we're big on the reduce, reuse, recycle concept of marketing. So once you're sort of creating this consistent marketing strategy, making sure your baseline content is available so that you can then repurpose it in 1,000 different ways, it really helps you just sustain and scale and not burn out. That's really the key. So we're going to kind of chat about how to do it. So first and foremost, we are all about quality over quantity. Even though the Google algorithm does prefer like more content is always better, ultimately some content is better than no content, right? So if you are going to produce one blog post, two blog posts, one video, whatever it may be a month, make sure it's high quality. If it's a video, it's transcribed. And so that when you're pouring all this energy into creating this content, you can then use the rest of your energy on repurposing it and distributing it so that its life cycle can extend.
I like that advice.
Mhm. And then once you're reusing, again, this is consistency, right? So you can really reuse content as much as you would like, right? So, like I said before, we've got content from 2016 that's still ranking. You can still repost that as long as the numbers are good. You can, as long as the messaging is always standard and consistent, you can use a blog post for a video script. Like we advise our clients who write blog posts with us to use that content as a foundation for anything else they're doing in their marketing. So if they're giving presentations, blog posts can be used as notes and slides, right? Like you can use the content you poured all this energy into making in a bunch of different ways so that you're not recreating the wheel every single time. So we kind of already covered this, but a couple of different ways to reuse your content. If you're pouring, I think the average it takes to write blog posts is like between 3 and 6 hours or something for most people. So if you're spending that much time on the front end to create the content, you should definitely be repurposing it in some way. So first and foremost, develop that sort of standard stance that you have on your cornerstone content topics. We kind of use the example of what to do with your stock options before, right? If that's a standard cornerstone topic people come to you about, have your recommendations ready or your high level facts ready, your opinions, and just be able to repurpose and reuse those again and again. Second, work your archives. So don't be afraid to update your past posts. A lot of our advisors do this. Even advisors who've been working with us since 2016 will go back to their archives, figure out what's ranking, update those posts with new numbers, with new call to actions, with like an embed so that people could sign up for their new lead gen piece. Make sure your content's working for you in a continuous way. Once something is published, it doesn't have to stay stagnant. You can update it as many times as you want.
Yeah, because I think it's the same thing with client types. Sometimes you're doing
Hmm.
one thing really right. So just find
Hmm.
that thing you're doing right and just keep doing it. And I
Yep.
know we
Hmm.
have reached the top of the hour. We're gonna stick around and continue, but if we just want to let everyone know that that is the top of the hour as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I can kind of hustle through the rest here as well. So you
Hang around with us.
yeah, for sure. And the recording will be ready too after if people have got to jump.
Yes,
You can
exactly.
also take snippets of long form like webinars to create smaller videos for promotion, use
Ooh.
elements of your blog post to make social media posts or graphics to share. Again, just a lot of different ways to reuse that quality content you're making.
Yeah, I feel like
And then
it's
finally, recycle. Don't be afraid to repost that stuff.
yes, you did the work. You have to, have
Mhm.
you're putting it in many different locations now. I agree.
Mhm.
It's
No, 100%. So we have a couple ways here to recycle content too. We kind of already covered a lot of it. Share consistently in your email marketing, update content that's outdated. So a lot of clients have content about like tax rates or something. Make sure those numbers are fresh. Post both new and old content to social, leverage your videos to create an opt-in. There's a bunch of different ways you can sort of continue to recycle or build on the momentum you have. And this is kind of the final thought, and it's not like that revolutionary, but entrepreneurs should always be playing the long game. So while your content strategy will have immediate impact, usually it's clients telling you they love it, or you see a spike in web traffic, things like that. Ultimately, your goal is to build this marketing system that continues to build on top of itself for years to come. Whether or not you even like, maybe you retire, maybe the business passes to someone else, you want to build something that's going to create momentum for the long run.
Yes, I know. And I feel like this always is applicable. Like this, the skill of
Mhm.
storytelling will never change. The
Absolutely.
mediums might change. It might
Mhm.
be a blog, it might be a video, it might be, but the skill of it, always be harnessing it and using it.
Mhm. I completely agree with you. And like you said, I mean, we see this with Instagram like influencers now, right? They've got to create reels or TikTok videos or what have you. You can tell that I have toddlers and I'm not on TikTok. Um, too busy. So like, and that changed from even, a year ago where it was all about Facebook advertising and Facebook lives. Things just are different and that's okay. It will continue to change. But if your foundation is always there and you're doing things consistently in a space you're comfortable with, it's going to be a win. So this was just a case study that we had personally on this sort of idea of reposting, just being consistent with content, really showing up for the long game. We had someone reach out to us who had been following us for like over a year or something like that on LinkedIn. They read all of our blog posts. I didn't even know this woman existed, right? Like I'd never met her before. I had never met her at a conference. And she finally felt confident enough to book a meeting and eventually sign on because she had been there through the consistency, right? So it's just kind of showcasing to advisors too. The same is true for our clients who are advisors working with consumers or investors. You just don't know where someone is at in the buy cycle. So if you're being consistent and you're playing the long game, you're nurturing those leads and again, building that marketing machine that will result in prospects converting or being warmer leads when they come to you in the long run.
That is true. And I know we did say, quality stuff is really important, but it is
Mhm,
also important to just do it as well.
mhm,
Because it is one of those things where it's not suggested to table this thing, guys. We
mhm,
understand there's so many hats you guys wear as an advisor. We don't emphasize your life where you have to be, a manager, a marketing coordinator, you have to be sometimes a counselor and a
mhm.
bunch of other hats as well. But it's not okay to table the marketing because you're going to see the effect later on your AUM.
Absolutely. And we've talked to people too who've like put a pin in content for a while, come back to it. And as long as they come back to it, it usually goes okay. But they see sort of a stop and stutter like in their prospect funnel because they weren't consistent and the machine wasn't being fed, so to speak, right? You weren't changing the oil or whatever you want to say is that
Yeah, and
analogy.
it's like a gap in
Um,
the resume. Like, please
yes.
explain where
Mhm,
you've been for the past 9 months while
mhm.
everything's been happening.
Exactly. And you can always pivot. Like if you're in a season where you're particularly busy, maybe blog posts go on hold, but you keep up client communication emails. Like there's always trade offs that you can kind of keep the balance, but showing up consistently in the way you can is key.
That's true. Yeah, even being honest, when you mentioned that, I feel like if I honestly got an email being like, "It's crazy the next 3 months, but
Hmm.
know that I'm here by phone call," I would
Hmm.
appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just being, again, authentic, right? In your marketing or your communication. So this is just kind of recapping what you can do as an advisor to get started with your content marketing. Start with a branding exercise. It's just a good foundation. Think through a content calendar and get one created so that you're always well structured and good, like set up for success. Figure out how to reduce, reuse, and recycle your content so that you're not burning out with content creation. And figure out a long term strategy to make it sustainable and scalable for your business.
All right, perfect, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for sticking around, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailedtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.